Legacy number 850 for the Superman. It's Superman number 7. Written by Joshua Williamson, art by Gleb, Melnikov, Dan Jurgens, Norm Rapman, Edwin Galmon, and Alejandro Sanchez, another Edwin Galmon, and his brother. It's the second. And Ariana Mayer, a bunch of artists on this book. And I didn't think that until you get to the Brainiac stuff, that's kind of a jarring change in art, but it's also a change in the story. So it works. And this issue, I told you before you read it, I said, boy, there's some big things. There's some really big things happening in this issue. The problem is they kind of get thrown at you at points. You know, you're going to have things that end up Perry White. All of a sudden, he is now no longer in a coma. He's fine. He's recovered. And now he's running for mayor again.
Possibly again. Yeah.
Which makes it feel very much like you're confusing people of what the setup was
before.
Just
us.
Yeah, well, before the whole setup was, and remember Lois, and I believe it might have been in the annual, but it might have been in that something. She ended up saying, we have to figure out, there was something that Perry ended up hiding, what Lex was up to, all this, while he was mayor, running for mayor. And the way that I think people would most remember it, she said, listen, get me the paper copies, get me the hard copies. This is stuff before the internet. He might not have put it on any drive or anything. And that's why they were supposedly going down in the depths of the Daily Planet. They were doing that. That seems like it was setting up something to then kind of manipulate it or, mold it into this in a new way.
Because, Perry's just fine now, out of a coma, and he's running for mayor again for some reason. Like, not even talking about the idea that he did previously in Superman continuity. But then, like you said, the chain just shows up, the character that Superman broke out of the Strikers Island previously. And actually, this has happened when I was still on the show, where it really did remind me of something that we had in Castle Rock, the TV show that's on Hulu, about a boy that was chained up in a prison, and they kept him there because he was evil, and they let him out, and the evil is let loose onto the city once again. So it's very much like that. And they're like, oh yeah, he is the toughest guy ever. He has tactile telekinesis, just like Connor Kent's Superboy. And it's weird, though, because they try to tell you that his powers are more evolved than Connor Kent's, but half the shit he does is not tactile telekinesis because he's not touching anything.
And it's weird because they end up saying, we got to get him back and stop the telekinesis. And they go, no, it's not that. It's tactile telekinesis. I'm like, are we just mincing words here? Like, stop this guy. This guy's crazy. Even then, what I want to know, because, again, Perry White has been in a coma because he knew the identity of Superman. That was the big to-do of, oh my God, if anybody knows. So what I want to know is how he recovered, and does he know the identity? I don't think he would now, but how did he recover out of that? We wouldn't know because they don't say anything, and it just happens as if we missed an issue with Perry.
Now he's mayor.
Yeah, he's running for mayor. Hey, I'm running for mayor. And then when you have the chain come down, he does recognize Perry. He knows Perry. He says, hey, Perry, long time. So, yeah, Perry was maybe a little sus about all this, but I think we're moving too quickly through it. And it's such a weird thing. Like, it ends up being this anniversary, this 850, this legacy deal. And it feels like at the last second, they said, oh, we need to fill out an oversized issue. So then you get Joshua Williamson kind of say, well, I did have all these things in mind. Let's just get them all in here now, because things just are rapid fire. And I do like a lot of the things that are brought up. But it just, you kind of never get your balance in it. I love Gleb Melnikov's art. I think his art is really good and really fits. But when you get the chain, I did say Matt Razor, my man Matt, told me I had to say this. And also, and I agree, I also sent you the picture, but when you get the chain, looks so much like Doc Ock in that Spider-Man Reign story where it was like a dead Doc Ock with all of his tentacles. And it's funny because you kind of get the idea. It does look like a bit like you play that Doc Ock deal. But instead, you just have what they say is tactile telekinesis. And there's no way the super family was... There's no way they got that building completely cleared. And then shit's just falling and crashing. There's no way.
But they are the Superman family. They got them super speeds. When the chain takes down a building and Superboy's trying to do his best to keep the building up, the rest of the Superman family are zip-zing along, trying to get everybody out. They said they did it. I'm here to trust that.
There's just not that many of them. There's too many people that maybe they should have said, thank God it's a bank holiday. Like, maybe you could do that. Like, there was only 5 guys there. It's crazy. But you do get these fights. And again, the art looks great, especially at the beginning. But while you have the super family show up to fight the chain, and really they can't get near him, he's freezing them. A lot of these things are just happening. They're not really that well explained, but it's okay. And he seems like a threat. you end
well,
up,
the big thing for me with the idea of the chain is something that Lex Luthor did years ago when he first came to, Metropolis, when he was trying to be a hero, experimenting by giving people power, almost like what we saw with, the Lex Luthor Inc., when he was trying to do his Batman Inc. and stuff like that. But you do see the connection here where him working with tactile telekinesis before he's making the Superboy clone that he would years later that would become Connor Kent.
Yeah, and we'll have to see, what this is. Does he have that DNA splice? Is he doing that? And even a little bit later when Lex is talking about things, there's some weird plays in there in like a bunch of little scenes that he's showing that are interesting enough. But we then go down into the bowels under Stryker's Island where you still have Mercy.
Superman chained up.
Mercy's just there and she's like, yep, get going, Mercy. Go and get Lex then. She's just standing around. Superman's trying to get out of his chain.
That's a hike.
And she's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that.
I got gun arms. I don't have wheel legs. It's going to take me a while.
You end up setting up this big thing. And it feels weird, like the idea, well, I can vibrate because I was taught by a good friend to do that. And also, the chains stop my power, but I have powers. And I'm going to do this. Boom, he's free. It just felt kind of silly just to have it, but it's okay. I mean, it looks good again. And he ends up going out there. But he then is going to go and help the super family that is trying to take down the chain. And I thought one of the most interesting things was when the chain did say to Connor, hey, your powers, they're like mine. You're like me. You just haven't gotten your potential.
They're not evolved yet.
What are you? And again, this could be, and also when you said about it being the Castle Rock deal, it also reminds me of Flashpoint with the Superman. He's kept underneath and hidden the
Subject One, yeah.
Subjector. I always get Subject One. So I think that maybe what we're going to get here, and it might affect Connor. Like this might have been a test run at one point. We'd have to see how it plays out. Yeah. So
and how
maybe
it plays
that's
into the idea that this is the son of the man who built Stryker's Island and stuff like that, and what was the relationship between Lex Luthor and that guy?
Exactly, and then from there you end up getting Connor, and there could be some interesting things in this. Again, a lot of this stuff by the end is set up to be, well, we'll deal with this sometime next year. Some of this stuff will be, and that's kind of the other bummer about this. But I think the chain is the big thing here,
especially that he goes off with Grafton Farm by the end. Like, hey, we hate Lex Luthor. You hate Lex Luthor. Let's hate Lex Luthor together.
Well, I love the idea that the chain here says, hey, there's Superman. Because Superman comes in where he's like, says to Connor, the chain says, who are you? And then Superman comes, he's family. Boom. I'd love it if Connor wasn't listening. Superman's like, I'll say it again. He's family. He wants him to hear it. But he's like, we'll help. And then you end up having the chain. He looks over and there's the building. It's the super, Lex.
The super core. Yeah.
Yeah. But he says, your symbol is on the building that was, but who knows what has gone on since then? I really thought that was like a weird play to be like.
The chain is going with what he knew.
Well, he's like, that used to be there. I'd hate to just have it that Superman bought the building or did something like, but he's like, if you're Lex Luthor's friend, it just sets it up and he starts fighting again. And he's bringing down buildings. They're getting all these people, like we said before. But then as that goes on, you have Grafton Farm show up and say, hey, buddy, you look pretty cool. We're the ones who set this up. We wanted to get you free. We hate Lex Luthor just as much as you, maybe even more. Hey, you want to join with us? And he's like, yeah, what the fuck? Let's go. And that is the big play there. It looks like they go off as we go off to deal with Lex. And again, a lot of people hate Lex being a good Lex. Me and you don't hate.
Love it.
We love the point. It ends up, I love the idea that he's trying at points to be a good guy, but sometimes he can't. Sometimes his past comes to bite him in the ass. And it's like all of that's hitting here. Like he legitimately feels like he wants to change things and move on and try to help, but everything always is. When you're a bad guy, things follow you. And Lois comes in and kind of demands, while they're fighting this stupid chain guy, let me know now on the up and up. Like, what's your plan? Why are you doing this?
Are you going to turn against Superman going forward? What's happening?
And I like that he explains the way, and you get that tie-in from before.
But the idea, when you look at the Abyss looks back at you. But what happens when something like the Abyss looks at Superman? Well, you know what? It gives it hope, just like it does me. So I like the idea where Lex is actually admitting the things he never wants to admit about how much he admires Superman and what it is, even though they had this long-ass rivalry for all of these years because Superman rejected him when they first met and stuff like that. He is realizing I can be a better person with this Superman and we can work better together with anything that super criminal genius that I used to be. this is the way I want to be going forward. I'm like, I always loved this version of Lex because it's really different than anything you had for like the last, 60 years of Superman. Like for the past decade, besides for Apex Lex, we've had a good Lex Luthor, and I've really enjoyed the time that we've had with that. But DC Comics never really seems to want to keep him that way because, let's just switch him back. Like, let's see how far he can go. Because even when he was Super Lex, the super suit, you never got enough. The man was on the Justice League, and you never really got to see him do anything on the Justice League. And then it was just Superman treating him like a dick. I don't trust you, Luthor. And then Luthor's like, well, fuck you. You don't trust me. I'm a bad guy again. I'm like,
here's the thing, and a lot of people, because of this, and especially right now, they're bringing up the idea of Norman Osborn being a good guy over in Amazing Spider-Man.
Should never happen in my mind.
It's a little different. And now you can say Lex has done some real sus things because he has.
Very sus thing, yes.
One of the things with Lex.
The Green Goblin's pure evil, though.
Green Goblin, like that's just a different, because Lex, I mean, whether or not you say, well, that's what makes him a great villain because he always thinks he's doing the right thing. A lot of times he kind of is, but he takes it too far and whatnot with all of that. So I end up like, and you even have, when you're going through these scenes as he's talking to Lois, is pretty cool. You even have like that first bit with the John Byrne, the Man of Steel, when Superman came into Metropolis and there's Lex in his office like, I'm over here. Look at me, Superman. He's like, I'm not looking at you. It goes like right away. It always is that snub. You have some Smallville stuff, all that stuff going on.
How dare you?
One of the things that really gets me here as you go through, and it's not really like you're reading the narration or whatever, that he's there in a weird, do you recognize the double L super suit that he has on, that purple and green suit?
No, I don't recognize it, no. When he's young.
He's fighting Graff and Farm there. Like,
yeah, when he's
they're
young,
punching him, and he's young. So, and he's saying at that point, I still tried to be a hero. And he says, and instead I made enemies. So you're playing that whole play of all along. I thought that what we were getting with Farm and Graff was the idea of, ooh, like Lex was real bad and he teamed up with us in the past and we're going to reveal this and we're going to show this. This now looks like it's just they want revenge because at one point Lex was trying to be good. And maybe this will time, because I don't recognize that suit at all.
Graft and Farm, Lex was working with them at the beginning, and then he realized what they were up to and decided, I can't let them go along with this, and became the hero after that.
Costume feels weird, and then I start looking, I'm like, are they in like a spaceship? And I swear to God, I started thinking of these crazy things of, are they actually villains from like Lexor? And when he did bad, then they came here and they did this. I'm like, I wonder what the hell. I don't think it is, but I actually thought that maybe that was a Lexor suit that he wore at one point. I went through issues and stuff.
I imagine it's just going to come down to the idea where it's like, oh yeah, we don't like Lex Luthor because he turned against us, but also he paralyzed me and put me in this wheelchair, so it's revenge time.
Well, it looks like that too, and I do think at one point you're also going to have where it's going to be that extra kind of thing with Lex, a little other thing of, hey, by the way, nobody knew this, but I was just about to be the biggest hero, and then Superman showed up, and oh my God, like everybody loves him now. I can't do it. They'll all think I'm sad, like something like that, because it looks pretty cool. Him and like that double L.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
Deal. It's pretty cool. So I wanted to see more, and I actually thought I was gonna like crack the code and find this stuff from before, but I couldn't. But in this, though, the speech that Lex is giving, I like. And I think that Joshua Williamson has a really good voice for most of the characters that he writes. It's just some of the stories aren't the greatest. This one has some big things shoved at you, but I think that the Lex deal I like, because this isn't Lex saying to Lois, woe is me, you should. He's kind of still a little like he's still Lex. He's still sus and mad about things, but now he's mad because nobody wants to give him a deal. And he actually says to Lois at one point, listen, you trust Superman who lied to you that whole time. He duped you that whole time, but it was fine then. Why can't you see that I'm not duping you? Like, I'm not doing that. Just give me a chance. And I do like it. And then out of nowhere, his mother shows. Like these things just happen, right?
Well, you talk about the idea of things just happen, because even the idea of Lois Lane coming in to talk to Lex Luthor, a super criminal at this point in time, she pretty much tells the police to skedaddle, and they
yeah.
No, that's what, like, I don't even understand. What is Lois Lane's power as the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet where she's telling the police to stop watching the super criminal? Didn't you know that that's what
the editor-in-chief of newspapers, that they have that power? You didn't realize this? Also, just now that you're saying that, too, he is in a prison hospital, and Lex says, I have to get out there. You need to let me go and fix this. And they're like, just let him go. No. That's not how it works.
And is he even in a prison hospital? Because it seems weird to me, because he would have been in Stryker's Island Hospital, infirmary,
that's what it says.
Where the Chained was.
Well, this is it. It says, Superman needs my help. Stryker's Island Penitentiary. He's yelling from inside a window. So it's that's true. Superman should have been down below. All Mercy had to do was get on the elevator and go up and get Lex to take it down. But he phased out. Very odd. Very odd. Like, again, things kind of moving in weird directions or moving along without.
Oh, yeah, it is. For some reason, I didn't realize it was Stryker's, because the thing is, I didn't want it to be Stryker's because it didn't make sense for the chain being there, breaking out, and Superman being there, and like, nobody's getting a hold of Lex Luthor.
Just imagine what you already said. Lois Lane, who has no real, like, not a family member, like, you could say later with the mom, like, she just walks into the Stryker's Island prison and says,
hey, guards.
Hey, you coppers, get out of here. I'm Lois Lane. I'm surprised she's not wearing all of her awards around like medals like I do. Hey, look at me. She's like, oh,
you
God.
too?
Yeah, I used to do. Oh, that's the thing. I actually thought I told you about that. At one point, when people would come over, some of my friends from our hockey team, I'd have all my hockey trophies, and I ended up making them into these big medallions. And I'd wear them around like I was Flavor Flav, like an asshole. And I thought it was funny. That's what she's doing, So you have all this. She walks into Stryker's Island prison, says for the cops to skedaddle to get the play of Lex wanting to be a good guy. And then as this goes, you just end up having his mom show up, which again,
Luthor.
It wouldn't make sense that, Lex almost died, but they even say it wasn't that bad, but she's there.
Look, it's such a weird play because not even to see Lex. You have Letitia's Luthor, the mother of Lex Luthor, show up, who's apparently been on an island being guarded because Lex Luthor never wanted her to ever get off this island. Just wanted people to forget about her, think she was dead, so he could be his own man. She is a part of the board of Luthor Corp. And the thing is, she's like, now that you've given the company to Superman, I have something to say. I want to contest this because it's bullshit. I'm like, where were you when he gave all his money away when he became Apex Lex? Were the guards keeping you on an island extra hard that day?
Well, at that point, she was a little younger. She was enjoying island life, Eric. She was
like a year and a half ago.
Right? Well, now she's a year and a half older. She's there. It's the crazy deal of, do you always just have to have an evil Luthor? And this is what we get. His mom come back like, this is bullshit. I'm going to contest this. And by the way, there's somebody else who wants to see you. And I actually thought it was going to be his sister, but it's his
I like
daughter.
The idea. Well, I don't even remember what happened to Lena after Superwoman anymore. But
I'm saying she was in that cube and shit and just
there was a lot of things in cubes, and I don't remember how it worked out when she became the Brainiac Lena thing, whatever she was. I don't even remember how it was that she turned into it. It was Ultra Woman, wasn't it? Like, or Bizarre, like something along those things. But anyway, you have Letitia show up here, the businesswoman Letitia, who has, she wants to make sure the company's in her control because Lex Luthor can't be trusted because he's giving a shit to Superman, and she's not about that. I like the idea of this because one of the greatest things about Smallville was having Lionel Luthor as this big foil for both Lex and Clark, the ultimate evil behind Lex Luthor. And I'm like, you don't have that here because of this. Lionel Luthor's just a piece of crap from Smallville. Now you have the corporate badass woman of his mother. I'm like, I like her fitting this role here. And then on top of it, she also brings Lex's daughter that you never knew he had, Lena. And it's such a weird idea because you have this girl like, thanks, Dad. Like, I told you I never wanted to have her here. Thanks, Dad. It's nice to feel appreciated. But she has the Brainiac marks on her forehead. Like, what is that?
Well, at one point, I'm sure you looked, but Lena was a Brainiac 13 version. And so you ended up where she got to a point, and to stop that and avert it, they ended up making her a baby again. And in the timeline, it looks like it could work out that this is just her then grown up.
So weird.
Might not know the deal, but the thing that I thought was very odd, because we jump right to it, the Brainiac part, and we know that Brainiac's the big story coming up. I thought that maybe, play this a little coy at first. Like, don't really show us, because even if you don't know the past, where there were a couple different Lenas, one being a Brainiac 13 version, which it looks like this one is, like, play coy with that and go, because then you jump into the Brainiac part almost like this was part of his plan. It may not be.
But that's one of the weird things, too. Are we actually doing anything that's in continuity? Like the idea that Perry White is running for mayor. Did that happen in the continuity? Or is this a new thing that Joshua Williamson is trying to play off from the past as something fresh and new? And the same thing with Lena.
Like, she said he did it in the past. It's weird. And then you have this Lena that's kind of a weird deal, but in an open timeline, it can work. But yeah, I'm all for having Lena here. I think that could be so much fun. Letitia will be fun to be, like you said, the Lionel villain, because Lionel should still be dead, I guess, from the whole metal deal and what. But when we have this going on, I just want Lena to just be, a typical teen, and it's going to drive Lex insane.
Even the idea where you take Lena Luthor at some point, the daughter of, for some reason, A lot of people hate it.
You think she's going to date Connor or something like that?
When you have these, no, because they're brother and sister essentially at that point. Don't fucking say stuff like that.
That is true. So they are going to date like it's sexier, you're saying, right?
When you have legacy characters like this to take over, like the offspring of somebody, people hate it because it's just like, oh, it's a lesser version of the character, like Crush with Lobo and stuff like that. I actually love them, and I'm like, what could she be going forward? Even like Deadshot's daughter becoming a live shot, I'm like, that's so cool. I want to see more with that character. Like, could this Brainiac Lena version become something in like a Teen Titans later on in the future of DC Comics? Because that could be really cool.
What I think is really cool, and the idea I said, it's odd that you end
up, she could be Betty.
A Brainiac 13 version, what's going on, but I really like the way that he has her show up, and if you don't know, or even if you do know, you're still intrigued because you don't know how it's going to play out, because, is that what it is, or are we doing, so like you said about Perry, sometimes that'll drive me nuts, but sometimes like this, I'm like, ooh, this is cool, you could end up subverting expectations one way,
or you can something to make it fresh, or what?
Yeah, make it fresh, and I really like the idea, and again, this isn't a character that just came out of nowhere. It was a character that was there before, and he explains
but
the
not
idea.
In this capacity.
Well, and he explains the idea that she's been on this island, so that's why she hasn't been seen. But now she's grown up. It's crazy. I just like, what up, Dad? I laughed so much when I saw it. But at this point, things were just
hitting so
you
much,
out of nowhere. Yeah, I love it. I don't love the Black Canary shirt, but that's just me. But
even the idea of the Black Canaries, when Black Canary had her band, weren't they just called Black Canary and not the Black Canaries?
Black Canary. Yeah, I think that might be a little bit of a mess up. It is a little weird, but that's pretty cool to then go into. And even then, when you have her say, "Hey, Dad, what a welcome surprise," and she's there, and then you even have the Brainiac bubble, like, the narration right there. My plan is in motion to make you think, oh my God, this is, may not be. It may just be a coincidence of this, or it might be affected later. But then you go, and at this point, again, I'm having fun. A lot of things are just happening. And then you go to the Brainiac stuff, which is to set up what is going to be the big things going in 2024. And as you go, I'm like, what's going on here?
Like, we had Brainiac, we had him with the Lobo and stuff like that, and like it even seemed like we're trying to take his healing factor situation of being the last Zarnian, but Brainiac had the bottled city of Zarnia, where he's going to take 3 of the biggest, baddest Zarnians that ever lived and send them to the planet Brawl, which is the home world of Cosmic Boy in the future, and he wants to kill everybody there. Like, are you trying to alter the future right now? Do you know what happens in the 31st century and you're trying to stop it? I don't know.
And again, does that tie into stuff with even Lena? Because of I don't think it would, because how the timeline's going and how that all works out. But that includes a lot of that stuff. It's just weird. And then it even has where you're going to get this Zarnian version of like Superman 2, the movie. You end up having these 3 guys and they're like, we're going to kick ass. We're going to go down and we're going to, just not.
Look, you have 2 guys and a woman. I understand where you're coming from with Zod, Ursa, and Non. These assholes don't remind me anything of Zod, Ursa, and Non. Because that one just looks like they all look emo because they're Zarnians and you know how Lobo looks, but the one just looks extra emo.
You pull them out of the Phantom Zone, they start to attack and do all that. You have these 3 that are grabbed out of a bottled city to do the same. I feel like he's actually trying to get that wink of having that feel of it. But we'll see. I like the little guy. Look at him back there.
Duende?
Yeah, I like that guy. Look at him. But yeah, they just
I'm trying to figure out what their names are. They Brainiac says the main one's name, and I don't remember what
General
it's called.
Shackle. General Shackle,
so even that,
maybe?
Even that with the whole thing, because it's still a general, like General Zod and stuff like that. But you have Tiburon and Duende and like Chakal, General Chakal.
In my mind, maybe it's because every time I say that, Joshua Williamson, he never can create anything fully original. It has to be versions of something else, like Shush. Here you get that in these Zarnians to go there, and it's weird. General Odd is what he should have been.
But honestly, the thing is, if you have these 3 Zarnians go up against Superman, even if it could be really cool because you will have that Superman 2 feel, and this one Zarnian alone is a handful. You get 3 of them who are actually, just not a biker bounty hunter asshole who have military experience, and maybe they could be a real threat.
Now, and how does this tie into Lobo with the, farm and Graph and there with there's a lot of stuff going on, right?
With what Brainiac is trying to achieve with the destruction of Brawl, it seems like he's talking about he wants to have the power to create life. Who does he have in this tube?
I don't know. Looks like a sexy lady to me.
It does. It's Nora Freeze.
It's weird, too, because, is that hair going up or is that an antenna? Is it Mantis? Right? Mantis? I love, too, it's like he's looking, he's like, I will be able to create life. And they're like, what, that sexy lady? He's like, no, I'm talking about that random leg over there. I like that leg. It's crazy. It has all these body parts and stuff. Sexy lady.
Dr. Frankenstein Brainiac.
Who do you think it would be? If you just had to guess off the top of your head about a sexy lady in there,
he might be making a Brainiac for the future that'll go back in time and become Lena for the whole thing, and it's going to be this time paradox thing. I don't know.
I actually thought it was just he's doing a weird science play. He just wants a sexy lady. He's making it for his own use.
There's not a lot of clues left, especially the way that he is, so you might want to make a mate.
Can we have that where then he's in the shower and he's like fully dressed? You have all that fun stuff. And
Brainiac in jeans.
Those Zarnians are actually the bikers at the end of Weird Science. They're making fun of him. Oh, it'd be pretty good.
Don't want to lose his job over this.
Pretty good. Yeah, really, his teaching job. What would you give this?
Thing is, I really enjoyed this issue and the way it looks, even with all the artists. I think it all works together for each individual story that they're telling. Some of the stuff feels like it's a little tacked on, like, too much too soon for the story that we've already been dealing with in the Superman series. That's the biggest problem in the book overall. But everything that we're dealing with, I'm really intrigued about. I want to see more. Like, even the Chain, it's like, oh, I got tactile telekinesis and I've been locked up for a while, but now I'm angry. Kind of a lame story and doesn't really feel, but I'm still intrigued to see where it goes. And everything else is like, yeah, this is really cool. I can't wait to see more. So I'm still going to give it an 8 out of 10, even though I'm wary about the idea of tacking on all these things so we haven't even covered what feels like one story yet, and we're tacking on more. We still have to deal with Marilyn Moonlight, for Christ's sake, and you have all this
later on. We're going back to the Old West, Eric. We could get to that.
It's all cool stuff, and I hope it all works out and we get to see it all. It's just, I don't know, Joshua Williamson's pacing's weird. I just hope he hasn't bit off more than he can chew here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, I think that the other thing we have to remember is that there's a lot of story here. But him and even maybe a Jason Aaron working with him, they're going to take over Action Comics, so there might be a little more play and a couple different things to do to broaden the story. So maybe that is the play here to get these things set up.
If you use these oversized anniversary issue to do some synergy in DC Comics to show us some different things going on in the Superman world, good for you.
Yeah, and I think that the Jason Aaron thing is going to start with a Brainiac story that hopefully will tie into the idea that they were doing, Farm and Graf were doing Brainiac stuff as well. And again, if that's the case, and Jason Aaron will be working hand in hand with Josh, then it may make sense. Get this stuff out there so it's established, and then we'll work on it in 2 different books and go forward. So I'm an 8 as well. I actually, like I said, I sounded like I was a bit negative about it. It's just a lot of stuff happens, but most of it's pretty cool. The worst is the Chain. He ends up just there, but he makes himself a threat to then get scooped up by Farm and Graf. But at least we have that he's a threat. They had some problems with him. Now Farm and Graf is definitely working their deal on one side. And at one point, for some reason, I thought that the Brainiac stuff was going to be connected more to them as well. But that's kind of the other thing going.
Because it felt like they were doing the same things in the last one. Like the idea of where Lobo was being dissected by Brainiac while Farm and Graf were dissecting different Superman villains. It felt like it was way more connected than it actually is here.
I thought it was way more connected. And so this shows it might not be, but you might even be playing that idea. And you love the idea of the Superman Revenge Squad. You love
it.
And it seems like Farm and Graf are definitely setting up that or more of the Lex Luthor Revenge Squad. But still, you love the Revenge Squads. In the meantime, you might play that deal where there's Brainiac coming to really cause problems. You may have to have a team up, the idea of the enemy of my enemy and stuff like that. It's actually very intriguing. So I'm looking forward to see where all of this works out. I just hope that Joshua Williamson presents it in a way that's not just thrown at you.
And I still want to have more going on with Jimmy Olsen and Silver Banshee.
Yeah, you have that, but that's why I was actually even thinking the idea of Lena having a problem because now Jimmy's going to have all the ladies. Maybe she'll like him as well. She's a little young, but still.
I'm not even like the idea though, but like you said, like you think that Connor and her will date, which is just gross, and I don't know why you'd say that, but Connor being almost a brotherly figure to this Lena in this new city because she's grown up on an island. Who knows what kind of past we're dealing with her in the Brainiac, fusion. I don't know, but Connor and her getting together, and even Connor exploring more of the Luthor side of his DNA is even a cool idea going forward.
Well, he's Luthor from the chest up. Down below, that's Superman, we're fine. Eric, it works out. Okay. It's all
that's gross.
Completely
no kissing.
No kissing. No foreplay. Right to the banging is what I say. That's what I say here.
That is weird.
I'm going to get on the soapbox and say just the banging.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.